Hey folks, welcome back to the Lone Pine Tarot. For today's reading, we have, instead of a pick a card, we have a pick a seed reading for today, which is reflective of the topic. What or where should you focus on growing? So today's topic is kind of a grab bag. We'll see what comes out. It could be something to do with your career. It could be something to do with spiritual growth. It could be something to do with your relationships in your life. But no matter what, for your best, highest good, we're asking Spirit to discuss an area that they think you should focus on tending to, weeding the garden there, planting some seeds, right? So without further ado, let's pick our seeds for today. For pile number ones, over here on the left, we have Moonflowers, also known as Evening Glories. For pile number twos, we have the lovely mixed color Sunflowers. And for pile number threes, we have a vegetable, National Pickling Cucumbers. So just to reiterate, pile number one's Moonflower, pile number two's Sunflower, pile number three's Cucumber. Feel free to meditate on these different seeds, see which one calls the most to you, maybe even pick by your favorite flower or intuitively what calls to you the most. Either way, whenever you are ready, whenever you've decided which pile you'd like read for you, drop down to the description box below and or the top pinned comment beneath the video. Click on the timestamp for your reading there, and I will see you in our discussion about what or where should you focus on growing. Bye. Hello there, my lovely pile number ones. Welcome to your Pick a Seed reading today on the topic of what or where should you focus on growing. As you recall, you picked your pile with the Moonflower or Evening Glory seeds today. Lovely flower. They're a vine plant. They open at night. They're very fragrant. They attract a lot of moths, apparently. So we're going to set the Moonflowers, actually, well, I don't think I have room for them on the desk today, so I'm going to set them back here with me. But if I do find some room once I get all the cards out, of course, I'll put them back on the table for you. But just for now, we're going to set them down here with me. The reading will be in two different sections, as always. We have the first section will be identifying the areas of growth Spirit recommends for you, and the second section will be advice on that. So we're going to split the Oracle cards right now based on those categories. So these will be the ones we'll talk about first. Oh, plus that one. Oopsie. And then these are the ones we'll talk about in the second section of your reading. And then, of course, we always want to pull tarot cards on screen, so I will do that now. We have the Ostara Tarot today. Perfect for spring, right? So, Spirit, for my lovely pile number ones, could you give me 5 cards explaining more about this area of, or what or should they focus on growing, or where, please? 5 cards, thank you. Okay, let's see what's up. 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's see, what else do you think, pile number ones? Maybe this one back here is kind of standing out to me, at least. Set that there. Get our ducks in a row. First, let's reveal your Oracle cards. So what or where should you focus on growing? We're going to talk about the context here. So, first card from the Lantern Oracle, you received number 42, Home. May your body be where a harmonious balance of love, strength, light, and pleasure lives. So I get a bit of a self-care vibe off of this card. Of course, we'll see what else pops out. Self-care. More about being happy in your home, aka your body. Next up, from the Oracle of the Hidden Worlds, we have a Lotus. Number 25, Open like the Lotus, flowering spirit, revelation, maturity. Growing up through the mud of life and reaching the surface and blooming like the lotus. Beautiful. Very spiritual flower. I'm going to adjust these just a bit. Next up, we have a Power of Surrender card. So we'll see, Spirit is recommending that you surrender. Oops, I flipped that over. Spoiler alert, you saw the peony. Surrender comparisons with other people. Keep your eyes trained on yourself. Focus on your own strengths, attractiveness, and power. Surrender comparisons with other people. We'll talk about that in a second. We're actually going to set that over here. And last but not least, we do have a Botanical Inspirations card. You already kind of saw it because I accidentally flipped it over, which of course is the peony. Prosperity and compassion. Prosperity depends more on wanting what you have than on having what you want. And that quote is unknown. They're not sure who the author is. So prosperity and compassion. And then let's flip over your tarot cards, and then we'll talk about your whole reading in context with everything that's popped out. So card number 1 is strength reversed. Usually is kind of what it says on the tin, feeling a lack of strength, a lack of willpower in some area, feeling weak in some area of your life. Here we go. Number 2, we have the Page of Wands, exploring creativity, exploring willpower. We have a little bit of a theme here with willpower and strength. Number 3, the 5 of Cups reversed, recovering from a time of sadness or grief. Okay. Number 4, we have the 5 of Wands reversed. 5 of Wands reversed is letting go of ego, letting go of fighting with other people, letting go of the need to be right. That doesn't necessarily mean you, pile number 1s, but we'll explore that more after we get the final card out. Usually the 5 of Wands is a battle of egos reversed. It's letting go of that. Last but not least, we have another Wands. All right, so we have an abundance of Wands. This is the King of Wands reversed today, pile number 1s. King of Wands reversed, lack of confidence, lack of mastery externally with willpower, creativity, feeling like we lack charisma or like confidence, like I said before. So you have an abundance of Wands today, pile number 1s. And Wands in tarot are all about fire. And fire in tarot is all about creativity, willpower, confidence, things like that. So, for sure, the area that Spirit is recommending an area of growth to focus on is something to do with those things. Your creative spark, your willpower. Definitely with the strength reversed, I think it's more of a willpower, confidence related thing. And especially with the King of Wands reversed at the end here. And then I am going to see, where should we put Moonflowers? There's not really much room for them. I'll keep them down here with me, but unfortunately there's no room for your seeds, I'm sorry. But anyways, back to the reading. So pile number 1s. Yes, willpower, creativity, confidence. Specifically, you do have some side messages. We did talk about home here. Let your body be where a harmonious balance of love, strength, light, and pleasure lives. So there could be an aspect of confidence related to your body and self-care here. That is, Spirit is recommending that you focus on growing. We'll talk about that more in a second. We also have the Lotus, flowering spirit, revelation, maturity, growing through a time of, well, like Lotus, grows up through the mud and the muck, and then it blooms on the surface of the water. It takes some time for it to grow through the darkness before it can get to the light. Okay? Specifically, I find it interesting that it does mention maturity, and then you do have a figure here in your home card who is, I'm not sure what age she might be, but definitely with her silver hair. She's probably, post 60 years old, I would say. So something to do with maybe aging, especially too with surrender comparisons with other people over here. Surrender comparisons with other people. And then, yeah, peony, prosperity and compassion. Prosperity depends more on wanting what you have than on having what you want. So the reason why I'm going through these cards kind of one by one, pile number 1s, is I'm hoping, as I spoke about them in tandem with the meaning of the wands I talked to you about before, I'm hoping that you already are kind of getting a glimpse of the theme here, but if not quite yet, I'll reveal it right now. So the theme here is, or what you should focus, or where you should focus on growing, is self-confidence in your own body, specifically when it comes to age-related comparisons to other people, and self-love and body image is how I'll put that. Now, so it technically could be, I'll just use an example from my own life. I'm in my late 20s. And I'm already getting gray hair. And, the first gray hair I found that popped out, I got a little bit nervous because, when you start getting gray hairs, I mean, everybody's different. It just depends on your genetics. I know one of my parents had gray hair very, very young. So it's very normal in my family for that. But, of course, when you first get that gray hair, you kind of think to yourself, oh, maybe I'm not so young anymore. And so as we age, unfortunately in our society, we, especially for for females, right? For women, we tend to not appreciate the beauty of our bodies as we age. We tend to really, at least in Western society, we value youth. We value, a lack of gray hair, for example, or we value, a younger, fitter body, or we value looking young in the face, things like that. Having perfect skin in your life. We fear having wrinkles. We fear getting those gray hairs, like I was talking about. But what Spirit is saying here, pile number ones, is there is a lot of beauty in our bodies at any age. There's a lot of beauty in our bodies at any stage of life that we're in, at any state that we're in. And so I think what this reading is telling me is perhaps you struggle with some comparisons to other people in terms of body image, but it could also mean there's a little bit of a sub-theme here. Comparing yourself based on how far you've come in life related to people around you that are your age. So comparison of, okay, well, let's say you have a best friend and they already got married at a certain age. And you're thinking, well, how come I didn't get married by that age? I feel so behind. Or perhaps you have someone that who progressed in their career a lot faster than you, and you're like, well, God, at this age, my parent was already doing this, or my friend is already at this stage of their career. I wish I was there. Things like that. Comparison is the theft of joy, pile number ones. And what Spirit is pointing out here is not only to be more compassionate and loving to yourself with the peony, prosperity and compassion, self-love, like especially with the theme of home here, seeing your body as a temple where pleasure and love and light lives, appreciating your body for what it's been through, or your life, or your own personal journey for what you've been through with open like the lotus, like I said, growing up through the mud and blooming on the surface. There is a lot of beauty not in what we look like, but in what we've been through, pile number ones. In my opinion, the most beautiful aspect of anybody, or, well, here, I'll put it this way. My favorite part about learning about other people, like when you finally get to know people deeper down and they reveal a little bit more about their internal thoughts, is I love knowing or understanding what they've been through, because what it teaches me as a person is the beauty of their soul. I know that's more of a personal opinion of mine, but what I'm saying to you, pile number ones, is that there's a lot of beauty in endurance. There's a lot of beauty in just having come as far as we've come and surviving, because life isn't easy, pile number ones. We all know this as adults. And so I think part of the growth here Spirit is suggesting is a shift of thinking so much about physical beauty and outside beauty. I'm not saying that you're vain, or Spirit isn't saying that. It's not saying that, you shouldn't focus on beauty at all. Self-love. If makeup makes you happy, wear some makeup. If going for a nice massage or having a spa day makes you happy, do that, because that is nourishing yourself. That is taking care of yourself, at least in the way that everybody takes care of themselves in different ways. Some people don't like makeup, some people do. Some people love a spa day, some are like, ugh. But when you do things like that, focus not so much on how does it make me look to others. Focus more on how does it make me feel. How does this thing that I am doing related to my beauty or my self-care, how does that make me feel? How does it nourish my soul, instead of what does it make me look like? And everybody struggles with this. So I always say in my readings, it's not Spirit pointing and wagging a finger at you, pile number ones. It's just saying that you would have a lot less stress in your life if you followed the mantra of comparison is the theft of joy. So whether it be your body or different milestones in your life that maybe you're comparing yourself to others. I do see a lot of themes about aging and maturity in here. Maybe there's an age-related element of, well, I feel like I look older than my friends do at the same age, or I feel like, they've come to different milestones faster than I did, or maybe, you're comparing to your own parents or generations before you, like, oh, they got to these milestones a lot faster than me. I feel like I'm so far behind. Spirit is saying to grow, to let go of those things and appreciate your journey for what it is, because, at least in my personal belief, we come to this earth with a specific mission in mind. Oftentimes tarot readers will call it a life lesson. You come here almost in a way of, it's like a classroom. You come here to learn certain lessons. And the absolute beauty of that, pile number ones, at least in my opinion, is that every single one of us has a different journey, and they're all equally valid and they're all equally beautiful. Like I was saying before, I always really appreciate when I start to learn what people have gone through. That's my favorite part about learning about people, understanding where they've been and how it's affected them and their journey. What lessons have they learned? Where was I going with this? One second. Yes, so the beauty is in what you're learning. The beauty is in your soul. The beauty is not so much on the outside. And I'm not saying, like before, you're not vain, pile number ones. It's just that we get so caught up in our three-dimensional world of, do you ever watch the way that they advertise products for beauty and self-care? Like, the one I always think of is, there's one for, I think it was for shampoo or hair dye. I can't remember. And basically, they were advertising that, if you use this shampoo or you use this hair dye, like they had the actress in the commercial walking down a hallway at her workplace, and all the men were like turning around to stare at her. Which, yes, there is an element of that in our society. We want to feel attractive. But just imagine if we lived in a society that instead of advertising by, this will change the way people look at you, advertise it more based on the way it makes you feel. Which, yeah. So that's the shift that Spirit is kind of talking about, like getting out of that three-dimensional mindset of the things that our societies put us in to make us feel guilty or feel, I'll just say it, make us feel ugly so that we buy products to feel prettier, which that's the thing, is that you're always pretty no matter what. We're all beautiful deep inside. Things like that. And focus more on the beauty of aging, the beauty of the journey and where you've been and how far you've come. Because when you rely on that instead of outside validation, instead of outside beauty, or perception of beauty at least, societal perception of beauty, I should say, you have more power in your hands. You can turn that strength card reversed into an upright and say, I have the power and I have the charisma and I have the confidence, and I'm not giving my power away to other people and their validation. I have the power within myself to feel confident. And that's the thing, is by switching that power dynamic back to the only opinion that matters is my own. It's not inconsistent. It's not relying on other people to hold your self-image in their hands. And you can take that ball of clay and you can mold it yourself. Because that's what matters in the end. Is your self-perception. How do you feel about yourself, pile number ones? Looking at your tarot cards really quick too, we do see, maybe, I almost feel like maybe this has been a struggle throughout your life, is about, how you adhere to beauty standards, how you adhere to, maybe people have said a lot of nasty things to you regarding, where you've come in life based on your age, or, about your appearance as you age, or about just appearance in general, because I do see that 5 of Cups reversed there. That's recovering from grief. It could be, I'm almost getting a sense intuitively that you're already kind of on the path to overcoming this, because you do have the 5 of Cups reversed, because that's a time of recovery, rather than, if it was upright, it would be like you're still entrenched in the sadness or the darkness of that time. Plus you have the 5 of Wands next to it, and the 5 of Wands reversed is letting go of ego, letting go of combat with other people in terms of our willpower. And in this case for you, pile number ones, I think it's letting go of combat with society or other people around you in life regarding the topics that we just discussed, like aging, beauty, comparisons, deceptive joy, etc. And turning that King of Wands back into an upright of, I'm confident in who I am, I'm confident in what I look like, I'm confident in my beauty, in my inherent value as a human, as a being with a soul, as a piece of the universe, walking made flesh, right? And Though you're still being encouraged to explore this even more if you've already started walking on this path, explore it more with that Page of Wands. That's the Apprentice card. I'm going to explore more about what makes me happy as a person that doesn't rely on outside validation or societal acceptance. And then you'll find that Strength card reverses back into upright, and you'll have that willpower, that confidence, that charisma, because now it's in your hands to feel confident in yourself, and it's not relying on other people to tell you that you should be confident because you fit ABC standard or whatever, things like that. So yes, we have a little bit of an element of maturity, aging, comparison, surrender comparisons with other people. Also, but the peony, I just want to turn back to that just for a second before we go on to the advice section of your reading. The peony, prosperity and compassion, being happy with what you have, recognizing the beauty in yourself as you are. All right, so let's move on to the advice section. We already kind of covered some advice because a reading like this, it's already inherent in, don't compare yourself to others. Screw society standards. Like, those are typical pieces of advice, but let's ask Spirit for some more specific things. So I'm going to shuffle the cards here. It could also be intuitively, I'm hearing something about some of you might have already gone through a lot of different phases of life in terms of, what do they call it? Is it ugly duckling? Well, okay, modern day, younger people like me call it, oh, it's a glow up, right? I feel like some of you have already gone through a period where, like, you went from a phase of less adhering to society's beauty standards to more in tune with society's beauty standards, and it really opened your eyes to the differences in the way people treat other people based on appearances and how much they adhere to those beauty standards. And I feel like maybe that broke your heart a little bit because it just made you realize, like, wait a minute, people are a lot nicer to me at, when I look a certain way, which is really disheartening because, yeah, I've had the same thing in my own life, so I sympathize with you, pile number ones. All right, let's get on to the advice. Spirit, for my lovely pile number ones, could you give me 5 cards explaining advice on how to grow in this area, back to more confidence, more self-care, more self-compassion for where they're at in life? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think that one right there, 5. So my lovely Moonflower pile. Let's reveal your oracle cards, which actually are some tarot cards as well. First up, we have the Sacred Rebels. Number 30, the perfection of your life. Really quick, this card is about understanding that no matter what ups and downs we have in life, we're exactly where we need to be. There is a life plan in place. Remember, I was talking before about life lessons. Everything is happening as it should. We'll talk about that more in a second. Nature's Whispers, we have Love Matters, Self-Love Matters, pile number ones. Definitely a lot of self-love messages here. Then we have the 2 Pastoral Tarot cards. Your first Pastoral Tarot, the 4 of Swords, Rest. Just having a good time in the hay bales. It does look very comfy, doesn't it? Rest. Definitely a message of being happy with what you have, not having to do as much as you think you have to do. And then we have the Knight of Swords, taking action with the mind in the way we speak. And then your tarot cards, we have number 1, the King of Pentacles reversed, feeling a lack of external security in the material world. It sounds a little vague, but we'll talk about that in a second. We have Death, transformation. Letting go of the old to welcome in the new. Number 3, we have the 4 of Swords again, but reversed this time, becoming more active in some way. Interesting, you have the 4 of Swords, but reversed and upright. We have Justice reversed, kind of what it says on the tin, injustice. And last but not least, we have the Queen of Pentacles reversed. So the King and the Queen of Pentacles reversed. The Queens are more about internal security, or at least the Queen of Pentacles is. Yeah, so in terms of advice, pile number one's on this journey of increased growth of self-love, letting go of comparisons with others. This is pretty simple. And the great thing is Spirit is already saying you don't have to do anything. Because this is a reading of not saying so much of what you have to do. This is a reading about saying what you're being recommended or suggested to let go of. Not only did you get the Four of Swords, which is the card of rest, pile number 1s, you got the Four of Swords reversed over here in the other tarot deck, the Ostara Tarot, which it's like going from a time of, let me retract a little bit. We have death right next to the Four of Swords reversed. Death is about change. Death is not big, scary, like we typically talk about it in waking day-to-day life, but in tarot, death is transformation. It's rebirth. It's letting go. So we have a time of, I feel, a lack of security with the King of Pentacles reversed here, to transformation, active growth here, because you have the Four of Swords reversed next to death, which is active, waking up. I am waking up to this change, letting go of injustice, of unfairness to self. You're being too hard on yourself, pile number 1s. And then with the Queen of Pentacles reversed here, it's almost telling me that this is more of the growth we have now, is the internal security. Or the next thing to focus on, I guess I should say, maybe it's a better way to phrase that, is the internal security. Especially next to love matters, it's self-love. So basically what they're saying is you're exactly where you're supposed to be with the perfection of your life. So if there are worries about, oh, well, I'm not at this milestone that other people were at this particular age that I'm comparing myself to, or, oh, I wish I had hair like that person does, or insert other comparison here, Spirit is saying there is beauty and perfection in exactly who and where you are. All right? It's just recognizing that. Because in our societies, we're made to feel so insecure. We're not made to, but there's a lot of external factors that make it very easy to feel insecure, I guess I should say it that way. And Spirit is saying, just rest. Just rest, pile number 1s. You don't have to worry about this. You don't have to worry about having your nails perfectly done. You don't have to worry about covering your gray hairs. I mean, like I was saying before, me personally, I got those gray hairs. I'm getting some more of them. I'm in my late 20s. I feel too young for it, but you know what? I'm letting them grow in, because like I was saying before, that beauty I see in other people. My favorite thing to learn about other people, pile number 1s, is the struggles that they've been through. And learning the lessons that their soul has learned. That's my favorite thing to find out about other people. And I see things like wrinkles and gray hair, like the gray hair growing in my own head right now, as markers of where we've come, or how far we've come. There is beauty in aging. There's beauty in what we call imperfections in society, but they're not really imperfections. It's just, they make you think it's an imperfection, so you pay money to fix it. That's really what it is. I mean, think about this. Marketing does not work without insecurity or fear. Think about everything. The last time you bought something for your own beauty, did you buy it because you thought, oh, that's pretty, and I think this thing will make me happy? Or did you buy it because you thought that people would judge you if you didn't do that certain thing? You thought people won't perceive me the way that I want to be perceived without this. That's kind of what Spirit is saying here with these cards, is letting go, a transformation of the mind, especially with the Knight of Swords, a transformation of the mind, taking action with the mind to reinvigorate this feeling or this need to compare or keep up with trends, or keep up with the way other people, we think the way we think other people will perceive us. So let your gray hairs grow in. The next time you get a wrinkle, think about how far you've come, how it's a marker for the journey and the years that you've lived. I wish in society that we looked at things like that, pile number 1s, the way that we look at scars. You ever think about how we look at scars? We're like, oh, that's so badass. Like, oh, that person has a scar that's like, oh, it makes them look cool. Or, I mean, maybe that's just me, but it makes them look cool. I wish we looked at gray hair and wrinkles the same way. Because there's a lot of strength and power in enduring life. Yes, there's good parts of life, but there's a lot of hard parts of life. So every time you see things like that, just know that there's beauty in how far you've come, pile number 1s. And appreciate what you consider your quote-unquote flaws, which they're not, but flaws, right? And that will turn this King of Pentacles, this Queen of Pentacles, right side up again. And having security in the material world, in the earth element, which is that's what the Pentacle suit in tarot is, the earth element. What's physically around us, our bodies is a good example. Oftentimes, pentacles are about career or the home, but I always consider pentacles the suit of the body too. You don't have to work so hard. That's why you've got the Four of Swords emphasized here. Rest. You're perfect exactly as you are, pile number ones. You don't have to work so hard. All you need to fix insecurity, all you need to fix when it comes to needing outside validation is loving yourself exactly the way you are. So that's what Spirit is suggesting to focus on for growth. More self-confidence, more self-love. So as always, pile number ones, I hope that reading was helpful for you. As always, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next reading. Bye, pile ones. Hello there, my lovely pile number twos, my sunshine sunflower pile. Welcome to your Pick a Seed reading today on the topic of what or where should you focus on growing. So unfortunately, I can't keep the seeds on the screen. I'm going to take your sunflowers off down here with me, but just remember sunflowers, right? To make room for the cards. This reading will be in two different sections like most of my readings. First, we'll talk about the context. What's the area Spirit is suggesting you should grow next, or focus on growing at least. And then section number 2 will be about advice on how to go about growing in this area. So we're going to split the cards now that I already pre-drew before the reading. These will be about the first section, and then we'll talk about these ones later. Put them down here with your seeds. And then, as always, we're going to draw the tarot cards on screen. So, Spirit, for my lovely pile number twos, could you give me 5 cards explaining more of the context for their highest, best good? What or where should they focus on growing next? Thank you. Definitely that one, number 1. I'm feeling this one, number 2, number 3. Number 4, and that one right there, number 5. Let's reveal some things, pile number 2s. And I'm intuitively getting that, you picked a very prominent flower. Sunflowers are very prominent and showy, but intuitively I feel like you're more quiet people, pile number 2s. I know that's not related to your reading, but I just felt that. Thought I should mention it. All right, let's reveal your oracle cards. First up, the Lantern Oracle. Number 8, Weeping Wound. You are not your wounds. A little bit of a grisly card there, but she's got a wound over her heart, right? Wound on her eye. It's impacting the way she's seeing things. It's impacting the way she's feeling things. You are not your wounds. Perhaps some pain from the past. We'll talk about that in a second. Actually, I'm going to set the Lantern Oracle over here next to the right pine cone. Oracle of the Hidden Worlds you received. Okay, Landscape. Number 27, the Full Moon Temple. Celebration Peak, Transcendent Moment. Interesting. We'll see what else pops out before I comment on that. Put her up here. Or it, I should say. A temple isn't it. Excuse my grammar. Next up, we have a Power of Surrender card. You should surrender unhealthy relationships. I'll read this off here. Let go of relationships that don't serve you, including unavailable or toxic people. You deserve to be treasured by others and to be surrounded by positive people. A lot about the heart here is a theme popping up. I can already kind of tell what this reading is about, but of course we'll pull every card before I say anything. Your Botanical Inspirations flower today is Magnolia. Beautiful. Nobility and self-esteem, and the quote from Ernest Hemingway is, "There is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow men. True nobility lies in being superior to your former self." Basically, the question to ask is, am I better today than I was yesterday? And that's the only comparison that matters. Then reveal your tarot cards here. Number 1, we have the Knight of Cups reversed. More about exploring the emotions. Interesting. Exploring emotions. We have the 8 of Swords, feeling trapped in some way. Number 3, we have the 6 of Swords reversed, feeling stuck somewhere, feeling like I can't move on. Yep, That's kind of what I was saying before, pile 2s, but we'll talk about that in a second more. Card number 4, the Chariot. You know, there's a lot about, like, covering the eyes here in a lot of your cards. The hawk here has, I can't remember what they're called, but they usually, it's like a little cap they put on their head to cover their eyes. If anyone is familiar with hawks, and I can't remember what the hobby is called, but it's like training hawks or like birds of prey. Little cap that covers their eyes. This guy's got his eyes covered here in the Chariot. She has blood coming from her eye and the weeping wound. Seeing something in a different way or seeing something incorrectly. Interesting. Anyways, the Chariot is all about feeling like I have the reins, having control, willpower, drive. And last but not least, we have the Hanged Man, another major arcana. Hanged Man reversed, actually. Asking for more about switching your perspectives on things. Yep, so there's a lot about eyes and the way we see things in your reading today, pile number 2. So, right off the bat, pile 2, so there's an area of your life Spirit is talking about here where I think you've been focusing a little bit too much on past relationships, not in a, you know, shake finger way, how dare you, because everybody does that. Everybody looks at past relationships to glean, you know, what did I do wrong? What did the other person do wrong? What do I do better next time? Why did this happen? We ruminate a lot on those things. But I think what's happening here, pile number 2, is I get an intuitive sense you're a little bit too hard on yourself with this. I think you're coming at these past unhealthy relationships, be they romantic or platonic, or even familial. Could be your family too. Relationships maybe that didn't work out with your family. I think you're a little bit too hard on yourself in terms of more self-blame, more you let it define you. And I say that because with weeping wounds over here, it says you are not your wounds. You're not defined by the pain of your past. You're not defined by your relationships that failed, pile number 2s. I think, like I said, you blame yourself too much for them going wrong. You know, if it was romantic relationships, maybe that you've been focusing on a lot recently, or maybe you just came out of a relationship that didn't work out so well, or you just lost a friend that didn't work out so well. You know, not an unhappy separation, I should say. I think Spirit is saying that, what's the best way to put this? You are trapping yourself, especially with that 8 of Swords there. You're trapping yourself in a flawed perception of self-blame when I think there was more blame to be had on the other side of these relationships, or at the very least equal blame for them failing. It's almost like you feel you're broken because of what happened with these relationships, and so it's hard for you to move on into the future, especially with the 8 of Swords and the 6 of Swords reversed right next to it. It's hard for you to move on into the future because you think, well, I need to fix myself, or I need to fix what's broken with me before I move on. And what Spirit is saying here, pile number 2, is you're not broken. You're not that weeping wound that you think you are. I think the relationship was, there's a lot more responsibility on the other side of whatever happened, or with whoever that was with. There's a lot more responsibility on that side than you're recognizing. And so in realizing that, it will help release the burden of feeling trapped in, oh, I did something wrong. I'm not lovable enough, or I wasn't pretty enough or handsome enough for this person if it was like a romantic relationship, or I said the wrong things, I should have done this, I should have done that, shoulda, woulda, coulda, that type of thinking. Letting go of that and realizing, well, hey, wait a minute. What was their responsibility on their end? Where did they drop the ball? Okay. Especially with the emphasis on eyes, like I was saying before. Your 6 of Swords, 8 of Swords has the hawk with the cap over its eyes. Your Chariot has a hood over his eyes. The Hanged Man reversed, he's got his eyes closed, and that whole card is about shifting your perspective on things. Weeping Wound has blood coming from her eye. I want to look at your unhealthy relationships here. Nothing about eyes in that one, but there is an abundance of eye symbolism here. Okay. And I see that in a tarot reading as flawed perception when I see a lot of that. So the area of growth Spirit is suggesting is to shift your perspective a little bit, at least a little bit, if not majorly, with past relationships. Pile number 2. Boosting your self-esteem more. Not regretting so much. And if you do reflect on these relationships and you do find, well, hey, yeah, maybe really I was the one that dropped the ball. This quote here by Ernest Hemingway, I think, is the key to that. Of course, we're not in the advice section of the reading yet, but of course, advice kind of comes out no matter what area of the reading, just in the inherent value of talking about this topic, right? It says, there's nothing noble in being superior to your fellow men. True nobility lies in being superior to your former self, like that thing I was saying. The only comparison you should worry about, pile number 2, is am I better than I was yesterday? Or at least, am I on par with who I was yesterday? Have I slipped back? And I think you'll find your answer is no, I haven't slipped back. Yes, I am better than I was yesterday. And letting go of the toxic memories from those relationships that were unhealthy. Letting go of them and seeing them not as something to be dreaded, seeing them as things to be regretful for, seeing them as ways to beat yourself up, and seeing them more as a celebration here with Full Moon Temple. Celebration, peak, transcendent moment. There were things you learned that you were supposed to learn with those unhealthy relationships, pile number 2. And as hard as it was to go through those, as painful as it can be, or as it was, because I think based on how much rumination type energy I'm feeling from this reading, must have been a lot of pain. I mean, we don't dwell on things that don't catch our attention. We don't dwell on things that don't hurt, usually, as humans. And so flip that perspective there, especially with the Hanged Man. Take control over the way that you see these things. And flip it from, I failed or I wasn't good enough, to, okay, I learned that lesson, or maybe the other person wasn't good enough. And celebrate how far you've come. A transcendent moment here with Full Moon Temple. You think you're at the bottom of the valley, but you're actually at the peak here with that card, is kind of what it's saying. At the peak of the mountain. I've overcome the obstacle, and this is how far I've come. Looking back, seeing how far you walked up that hill, and realizing I have endured. I have surpassed. I'm not those wounds. I'm not broken. I'm not completely at fault. That type of thinking, letting go of that, taking the reins back and shifting your perspective here over your life. So to summarize, or Spirit is asking you to consider tending to a garden, so to speak. Pile number 2 is changing the way you view your past relationships that didn't work out, being more forgiving of yourself, seeing it more objectively, and valuing yourself as a human being and not in failures or mistakes. Or I should say, not defining yourself based on failures or mistakes or perceived flaws. Because I think there is definitely an element here, pile number 2, is of, I think you're too hard on yourself. I think intuitively I'm being told you blame yourself more than you should. Okay? Letting go of that thinking of being so difficult, beating yourself up, and realizing you're a lot stronger than you think you are. You've endured a lot more than you think you have. And to find self-esteem again after it was robbed from you. That's how I would summarize the area of your life that Spirit is talking about here, pile number 2, okay? See if there's any other messages here before we move to the advice part of your reading. I'm finding today the readings are the advice is already kind of inherent in the beginning part of the reading where we talk about the context, but I do want to get to that section just because, or I do like having advice sections because I want to make sure that my readings give you tools to walk away from the readings with. Okay. Yep. Yeah, and with that Knight of Cups reverse, that's about asking you to explore your emotions more. I feel symbolically, intuitively, there's something about ice around your heart. I think there's something about these bad relationships that when they happened, you gained a certain perspective on those relationships and how they went, and it's like you haven't revisited and thought about them enough, at least in terms of different perspectives on it. That's interesting. I'm gonna ask one moment intuitively. 1 second. I'm sorry for silence. There's something about turning the ice on your heart into fire and melting away the ice. That's symbolically what I'm being told. Melting away the ice from your heart and turning it to fire. That's interesting, pile number 2. I almost think they want you to get more mad about these past relationships, and I know that sounds really weird, but I think you were... It's related to what I was saying before about being too hard on yourself, pile 2s. I think you need to get more mad about how these relationships went. I think you need to be more mad at the other person. I mean, of course, don't go after them and, yell. I mean, yeah, not that, you know what I mean. But sometimes anger is justified. Especially with that Knight of Cups reversed here. Explore your emotions more. Here's what I'll say to you, pile number 2 is, when you reflect on these relationships, pay attention to where anger pops up. What makes you angry about how they went or what happened? Because anger and other emotions are guideposts for us into instinctively realizing without our mental programming of, oh, I'm at fault, I was the bad person. It throws away the mental programming of thinking that you're always at fault. And it's a guidepost to say, well, hey, wait a minute. Why am I mad about this particular aspect of this relationship that didn't go well? Pay attention to your anger when you reflect on these relationships, okay, pile number 2s? Because I guarantee you there's something that makes you mad that maybe you're not recognizing deep down yet. And if you were to really view it through that lens instead of the self-blame lens, there would be an element of injustice there that Spirit wants you to focus on. So I'll leave that at that. Let's move to your advice section of your reading. Yeah, there's something about anger, turning the ice to fire. That's fascinating. Clear the board here. Surrender unhealthy relationships. So there goes my foliage. Bloop. I should tie those down, but I don't. Shuffle your tarot deck. Ice into fire. Fascinating, huh? Ice into fire. So the cards for the second part of your reading. Keep your sunflowers here. Okay, Spirit, for my lovely pile number 2 is, could you give me 5 tarot cards of advice on how they can grow in this area? I know we already kind of talked about it intuitively, but get mad. I mean, normally I don't recommend that on my tarot readings, but I think, anger is not a bad emotion, pile number 2s. Yes, it should be controlled, but like fire, so fire can grow out of hand, right? We don't want fire to grow out of hand. Same thing with anger. But tempered and controlled, like fire, it can illuminate things that we didn't recognize before. 3, 4, and I think that one 5. There's something you're not recognizing that anger would help you realize, pile number 2. So, okay, let's reveal your advice cards. We have the Sacred Rebels. Every journey starts with a single step, number 12. So this card is all about taking little tiny steps in your life, not thinking of the path ahead as a big mountain to overcome, but thinking of it as, okay, just one step at a time. So definitely you're being recommended growing in this area with tiny little steps, not so much big ones. Makes it easier. Nature's Whispers, you received illumination. Remember what I was just saying at number 2, by the way, if you're interested in the numerology, number 2, illumination. I was just saying about anger is like a fire where it should be controlled, but fire also brings light and brings things to our awareness. There's something that you're not recognizing about these past relationships, pile number 2, that needs to be illuminated. Like the clouds clearing away from the moon here, and she's flying by the light of the moon. Interesting. Then we have 2 tarot cards from the Pastoral Tarot. The first one is the 6 of Swords. You received again, this time upright. I always read the Pastoral Tarot upright. I'm going on a journey and I'm leaving things behind. We have people on a boat. We have the other Pastoral Tarot, the 7 of Pentacles, perfect for this reading, planting seeds for the future. We have a farmer here is planting his, looks like pumpkin vines, if I'm not mistaken. Planting seeds for the future. Yeah, remember earlier what I was saying, not viewing things as a mountain, a big mountain, but one step at a time? He's on a slope here. Interesting, okay. Then we have, get my ducks in a row. Tarot cards. The Emperor reversed, taking back your power. Asking for more masculine energy in your life. I'm strong, I have order, I have power. All right. Number 2, we have the 2 of Cups reversed. Asking for more harmony in relationships, more union. Interesting. Number 3, we have the 2 of Swords reversed. Indecision. Once again, we have something blindfolded. Also, eyes closed in these cards. That's interesting. What about our eyes being closed? I don't know. Knight of Swords, taking action with the mind or what we say. And last but not least, we have the Chariot again, taking control. A lot about taking control over, and I'm being intuitively told, taking back control over the narrative of your life. Not letting others define the narrative of your life, pile number 2. So I'm going to adjust to my chair and take a drink 1 second. Pardon chair noises or drink noises. So yes, your journey, pile number 2, is in this area of your life, is one little teeny step at a time. It's not a big area of growth where you need to, you know, be like a giant and take huge steps. This is an area of growth where it's one little teeny step at a time. So focus on just one area to grow, or one little teeny thing you can do. So for example, pile number 2s. One piece of advice I might give more so from myself than just from the cards. When you reflect or ruminate on these past relationships, the first step I could recommend to you is, like I was saying, focus on what makes you angry. What about these past relationships triggers a little bit of an injustice feeling, or a feeling of irritation, or a feeling of anger? What makes you mad about these relationships that happened in the past? Because I don't think you're listening to those emotions enough based on the cards you received so far. Another tiny step you could focus on first is, there's a lot about moving on away from something. You got the 6 of Swords earlier, and then you got it again here. I don't know if you're somehow close physically in proximity to these people you had these poor relationships with, or maybe you're still friends with them in some way, like there's still some attachments hanging on. If you find that you being around these people makes you sad, or it makes you, like, every time you're around them it just drains your energy and it's just not a good thing for you, consider as a different small step to take, physically distancing yourself from these people that are not good for you, pile number 2. So that could be another small step to take as a piece of advice. It's just that I think it's a lot easier for you to go through the growth if it's one little teeny thing at a time, especially with the 7 of Pentacles too, which is like planting seeds for the future. Every journey starts with a small step. And as you go through this time of these tiny steps of taking back your power, especially with the Emperor reversed and the Chariot, it'll illuminate more about the truth of what happened with these relationships. And I think that will help you let go of self-blame. It will help you let go of being angry with yourself and being more angry with other people for the ways that they dropped the ball rather than yourself. Let's see, other pieces of advice here. Yeah, step more into masculine energy, definitely, with the Emperor reversed. And like I said, if you're not familiar, masculine energy in tarot at least is authority, control, structure. The intuitive message is it's almost like you're being whipped around by a tornado of your own thoughts. And so this journey of growth, pile 2, is containing the tornado of this chaos, of these chaotic thoughts of self-blame and self-hatred and self-doubt. Taking the reins there, especially with the Chariot. And the Knight of Swords, too, is about taking action with the mind. Whenever you come up across thoughts of self-blame or self-doubt with these past relationships, pile number 2s, face them like, and this is going to sound corny as heck, but face them as you would like a knight facing down a foe. Because I almost feel like these thoughts of self-doubt are like parasitic on you. Like they're your own demons to have to fight, is what I'm being told. He's got his eyes covered too, dang it. Does everyone have their eyes covered? Closed, closed, covered, covered, closed. Interesting, okay. Look for synchronicities with eyes too in your life. That's another thing. Keep that in mind. But yes, face down these thoughts like you would as a warrior facing down demons. It's an active battle, one small step at a time, pile number 2s, because I think you've been so ingrained with this way of thinking. I'm not blaming you for it. All of us struggle with things like this, but you've been so ingrained and trained to think this way, to blame yourself, that leaning on that anger would make you realize, well, wait a minute. I think I'm being preyed on here by these thoughts. These thoughts don't control me. Why do I have to listen to these thoughts? Like, and same thing with the maybe things that were said in these relationships that maybe led to the end of them, or this, when you reflect on them and these are the things that maybe make you mad, you'll realize, well, that person said that one thing and that made me really upset. Like, you'll recognize it as, instead of the piece of advice in your ear that you should listen to, as a demon that you should fight and get rid of, is what I'm being told. I hope that's not too vague, pile number 2s, but yes. And focusing on harmony in your relationships right now with the 2 of Cups reversed. Specifically, I'm being told, if you doubt your ability, or you doubt your innocence in these past relationships, look at your relationships right now and see how they're going. And I think you'll find they're going pretty well, pile number 2s, is what I'm being told. And that's proof to you, even when those little demonic thoughts come around, like, oh, well, it was your fault, oh, you're bad, blah, 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 those little nasty things you gotta cut down with a sword. You'll find that, especially by reflecting on the present, that you're a lot better at relationships than you think you are. And that will help you identify in the past that maybe you didn't drop the ball as much as you thought you did. Other people dropped the ball more. Okay? Bringing things to light, opening your eyes, one small step at a time. And the 2 of Swords reversed here is interesting because that's about indecision. That's interesting. Indecision, I can't make choices. I think another aspect is maybe looking at areas of your life where you face indecision with your relationships is another way or another thing to pay attention to, is probably how I should put that, pile 2s. Focus on areas of your life where you face indecision in relationships, and that's another hint as to this mental shift they're suggesting that you change, or go on, I should say, a mental shift you should partake in. Yeah, taking back control over your mind. All right, well, pile number 2s, as always, I hope that reading was helpful for you. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next reading, okay? Bye, my lovely pile number 2s. Hello there, my lovely pile number 3s. Welcome to your Pick a Seed reading today on the topic of what or where should you grow next. As you recall, the seeds you used to pick your pile were the National Pickling Cucumbers Yummy, yummy. Everybody loves pickles. Well, maybe not everybody, but most people I know love pickles. So unfortunately, I can't keep the seeds on the screen just because I need room for the cards. I'm going to set your cucumbers down here with me. Put cucumbers down here. And this reading will be in 2 different sections, just real quick. The first section will be more about the context, what this area of your life Spirit is suggesting growth in. And then the second section will be advice on how to get there. So we'll split the oracle cards. These we'll talk about later in the second section. I'll put them down here with the cucumber seeds. And then, of course, I'd like to pull the tarot cards on the screen for you. So, Spirit, for my lovely pile number 3s, could you give me 5 cards explaining more about this area of growth for them you're suggesting, please? Thank you. 5 cards. Alrighty. Number 1, 2, 3. Let's see. That one for sure. 4, and I think that one 5. Excuse me while I adjust my chair for your chair noises. Let's reveal your cards, pile number 3s. What or where should you grow next? Your first card is the Lantern Oracle. Oopsie. Lantern Oracle today is number 1, Spirit Self. Be who you are as you are. She's got golden apple in her hand. That reminds me of the golden apples of Hera from Hesperides. As a gift given to her by Zeus. Her not so faithful husband. Yeah, so we'll set that one over here. Spirit Self, be who you are as you are. Interesting. Your Hidden Worlds Oracle today looks like Stonehenge almost. Number 8, the Liminal Dance. Delicacy, fragility, transience. The fragility of time. Things wearing down. Okay. Next up, we have a surrender card. So the power of surrender today is surrender obsessive thinking. If you're obsessing about a person or situation, turn the dilemma over to Spirit. Doing so will bring you clarity or even solve the problem. Maybe a little bit of a hyper focus on something you've been obsessing over recently that's been mentally torturing you a bit. Or maybe that's a general thing in your life, is mental obsession with things that bring you anxiety. Then your botanical inspirations flower today is anemone or the wind flower. Anticipation. A.B. Shepherd says, I felt like an arrow pulled back and ready to be launched into something big. Anticipation. Fascinating. Beautiful flowers. The anemone. Your tarot cards for today. Number 1, we have the Star reversed. Lacking hope or faith in something. We have the Emperor reversed. Pile number 2's got this card too. The Emperor reversed is asking for more masculine energy in some area. Masculine energy in tarot meaning control, power, authority, structure, logic of things. Number 3, the Knight of Wands, taking action with our passions, our confidence, creativity. I'm going to adjust these just a bit. Number 4, we have the Queen of Swords reversed, asking for more energy of internal, mental, or the way we speak about things. As swords are air, and air in tarot is, yes, communication, the way we think, logic. Interesting. And then we have, last but not least, the Knight of Cups reversed, another card that came out prominently, I think, in pile number 1. Actually, no, pile number 2's had this too. Knight of Cups reversed is asking for more exploration of the emotions. Interesting. I'm going to take a drink and look over your cards here. See, I'm going to make sure that I put together a cohesive message from the messages that came out. A lot about apples too. You have an apple in obsessive thinking, and then you have the golden apple here with Spirit Self. And apples, of course, traditionally we think of apples related to knowledge, not only, at least in the United States, I don't know if this is culturally applicable to the whole world, but we associate giving a teacher an apple. And teachers teach, they pass on knowledge, right? The apples of the tree of Eden, the tree of knowledge, right? Also, like I was saying, the apples that were given to Hera by Zeus, the golden apples. So there's something about knowledge here. Oh, okay, it clicked for me finally. Pile number 3, sorry. Your message, it took a little bit more to come out today. Sometimes the messages like that, like pile number 1s and 2s were like that. Yours is a little bit more subtle. What Spirit is saying for you, pile number 3, is the area of growth for you, they're asking you to focus on or consider, is letting go of the need to know things. And I know that sounds really weird, but I almost feel like there's areas of your life where it could be past tense. So for example, I'll be a little bit more concrete here, unless, tarot floaty is how I put it, more, a little bit more concrete in a material example, right? Perhaps when you look back on certain things that have happened in your life, you have a tendency to obsessively think or wonder over why certain things happened. For example, say maybe like pile 2s, you have some matters with ruminating on past relationships that didn't work out, or ruminating on things that happened that made you angry or made you sad, things other people said. And, oftentimes when those things occur in our lives, we come to the crossroads of wondering, well, why? What was the rationality behind why they said that? What was the rationality behind, even if it's not related to other people, maybe something just went bad in your life and you're wondering, well, why did that go so wrong? Like, why did that project at work not work out? Why did I not get that promotion? Why did I not get that job? Why, insert a million different why questions here. There's too much focus here on the why of the past, is how I would summarize everything so far. Pile number 3 is for you. And it's interesting because you have liminal dance here. Delicacy, fragility, transience. What that is saying to me, pile number 3, is the reason they're telling you to let go of that obsessive thinking over the whys of your past is because it just doesn't matter anymore. And sitting there torturing yourself mentally takes away from your present and your future. Not only in the way of a lack of, control over your thoughts, aka anxiety, beating yourself up, hurting yourself mentally. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have done that. Did I deserve that? Why did they say that? Why did that happen? Things like that. But also in terms of it robs you of faith or hope in the future. When we focus so much on the why of the past, a lot of us tend to self-blame. And self-blame and self-doubt affect our ability to enjoy the present and the future. And that's, I think, where the star is coming in here reversed. The star is all about having hope or faith in something. Reversed, it's asking you, have more hope or faith in yourself, pile number 3s. Have more hope or faith that things will work better in the future. Just because something occurred a certain way in the past doesn't mean that it will occur again in the future. And I think part of the reason maybe you get that obsessive thinking is because you want to have a sort of a sense of control over the future. You think, well, if I figure out why that happened in the past, I can prevent it in the future and nothing bad will ever happen again. Of course, it's hyperbole. We can't prevent everything bad from happening, but, I think that's where for most people, ruminating comes from, is this feeling of, if I can figure out what happened in the past, that I can control the future. But that's the thing, is the future is always, at least currently, unwritten, at least as the way we live our lives as humans, right? We don't know the future. We can't control the future. The best we can do is to have hope or faith that everything will work out. And even if it doesn't, to have the control and the grace upon ourselves, to be gentle with ourselves, to not immediately jump towards self-blame. Things like that, pile number 3s. The past doesn't matter. I mean, it does. A little bit. Because the past forms who we are. But the thing is that the past doesn't define who you are in the future. The past is currently right now. I know it sounds really weird and cheesy, but the past is currently right now. And so you have the ability to define your future. I'm trying to find the best way to say this. Based on gaining a greater control over your thoughts now, is what I'm being told intuitively to tell you. I hope that makes sense, pile number 3s. But yes, having more hope or faith in the future that things will work out. Having confidence to take action with your willpower and creativity with the Knight of Wands. Having more control over your thoughts with the Queen of Swords reversed. Having more control over your emotions with the Knight of Cups reversed. Especially the Knight of Cups reversed is more about exploring our emotions. Asking for more of that. Our emotions are guideposts, pile number 3s. They can help us see better. Like this knight here particularly is, well, she's following Ursa Major, or as we know, the asterism within Ursa Major is the Big Dipper. It's literally not to be weird, but it's the butt of the it's the butt of the bear of Ursa Major, right? The Big Dipper is technically a butt. There you go. There's some levity for your reading. But yes, she's following Ursa Major right here. She's navigating with her eyes closed, focusing on, okay, where do I feel I need to go? And I'll tell you what I told pile number 2s, because you're very similar to pile number 2s. When we get so caught up in the why of the past, sometimes we neglect our emotions. I know we're not at the part of advice for this reading yet, but one piece of advice I have for you already, pile 3s, is when you ruminate on these past events, especially with surrender obsessive thinking, let go of the narrative you've already constructed over the why this particular thing happened, whatever it is you're ruminating on, and relive what happened a little bit. Go through the memory again and focus on how it makes you feel rather than the way that your mind says you should perceive it. Does that kind of make sense, pile 3s? There's a lot of themes today in the piles today about letting go of the mind and listening to the heart more, especially with the past. Seems like collectively, as at least my viewers here on my channel are maybe going through similar things with that. Letting go of the past, letting go of mind demons that say, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. Why? And listening to the heart more, because your heart really is a good North Star to follow when the mind is too chaotic to listen to, is how I'll put that. And yes, the past doesn't matter, pile number 3s. And I think that's part of what you'll realize with this time of growth. The liminal dance. The past doesn't matter anymore. What matters is right now, because like I said, right now is the past of your future. And defining that in the moment, rather than focusing on the things you can't control anymore. Letting go of control. And then, let's see, any other messages here before we move on to advice? Yeah, a lot about control and faith and hope. Then, we'll go back to your Lantern Oracle here. Your spirit self. Be who you are as you are. I think there's also an aspect here of having lost your identity a little bit because of these ruminations, because of the way that your mind has tried to define you based on these past experiences. I think there's an aspect of yourself. Because of the abundance of apple symbols, which, we associate apples with knowledge, right? Culturally. It's like there's more about self-knowledge here they're asking you to explore as well. Being who you are as you are. Intuitively, I'm being told another aspect of when you ruminate on these memories, instead of focusing on the why, also focus on more yourself and less the other person in these situations that maybe you reflect on a lot. That's interesting. Yeah, a lot of chaotic energy in this reading. I don't know what that's about, but fascinating. Sorry, I'm going to adjust these cards here for you, pile threes. See any other messages before we move on to the advice part of your reading? Let's see here. Yeah, your reading is a little bit more, it's not quite blunt as the other ones were today. Sorry about all the silence, pile threes. I just want to make sure that I have every message out before we move to your advice. Yeah, taking confidence. Okay. Well, I think I've said everything about this part of the reading. We'll move on to your advice here, pile threes. I know we already talked about some advice about, when you do reflect on the past, focus more on yourself, focus less on the why, but it's almost like I'm feeling like a blocked throat chakra for you. I think that's part of why it's been, this particular reading is like very quiet. I don't know. Blocked throat chakra. Look into opening your throat chakra, pile number 3. So that's another piece of advice I have for you, okay? Blocked throat chakra. I keep hearing I can't say anything. I don't know if you felt like you've had to be very quiet in your life, pile threes. Maybe a lot of these issues in the past that you've been ruminating on have been a lot more about things you didn't say or weren't able to say. That's kind of what I'm feeling for you. Spirit, for my lovely pile number 3s, could you give me 5 cards of advice in this area? How can they grow? Oh boy. 1, let's see, 2, oopsie, that one wants to stick. 3, 4, and 5. Get my ducks in a row here. Yeah, the past just doesn't matter. And then I'm going to take your seeds off screen because unfortunately there's no room for them on the desk. Your cucumbers. And then we have, yes. So first up, the Sacred Rebels Oracle Advice. We have Heaven Sent, number 33. This particular card is all about something being sent from above. There's some sort of help on the way. We might not always recognize exactly what form it comes in. We might not even recognize it at the time. But I feel like there's something coming along that will help you in this area. I don't know if a person might come into your life that helps you reflect on these past events from a different perspective, almost, I'm being told. Or there's some bit of knowledge that's coming that will help you. Interesting. Your Nature's Whispers Oracle, we have Make a Decision. All right, number 11, if you're interested in the numerology, and then Sacred Rebels was 33. 11, make a decision. Making a certain choice. We'll see what else pops out with that. You have a very mysterious reading today. Then your 2 Pastoral Tarots, we have the 3 of Swords. Pain is what this card means. We have a figure here who, she read a letter. She's crying. There's bleeding hearts literally growing next to her. There's a storm in the distance. There's a snake that already got to the eggs that are broken here. And let's see. Oh, and there's a bird with a broken wing down here. This is a really depressing card, but that's what it means, though, is pain. The 3 of Swords. Pain from the past. We also have the High Priestess. Listening to our intuition, listening to who we are deep down. We know the way. And then your tarot cards. Let's see. First up, we have the Knight of Swords reversed, asking for more action in terms of the mind or the things we say. We have the Queen of Swords reversed again. Internal mastery of the mind, or the way we think. It's kind of what we were already saying as advice earlier, pile number 3, was controlling more of those thoughts. letting go of the why or the need to know to bring more peace and serenity to your mind. We have the King of Wands, confidence, charisma, mastery of the fire element externally. 4, we have the Five of Swords. God, there's a lot of snakes and apples in this reading, which once again brings me to the idea of Eden. Interesting. The Five of Swords is all about combat, mental combat, fighting. Then we have the Chariot reversed, feeling a lack of control, or letting go of control can sometimes be what that means. Letting go of control. Reigning in chaos. All right, pile 3s. Let me get my ducks in a row here. Yeah, as I already said, pile 3s, I feel like there's something coming along that's helping you in this area. With Heaven Sent, this card, like I said, is all about there's something coming your way. Could be another person in your life. Could be some sort of change in your life. It could be like, I don't know, I don't want to say like a job change or like a move or something that major, but something out of your control that's coming your way that will help you gain a different perspective on the past. Interesting. So that piece of advice actually isn't anything you have to actively do. That piece of advice is just a heads up, hey, there's something coming that's going to help you. I think for most of you, it's a person coming, is what I'm being told. But as a general reading, everyone's going to be just a little bit different. We have, yes, Three of Swords is pain, and then the High Priestess is intuition. I think that's kind of reflective of what I said earlier about when you reflect on these memories, when you obsessively think about these things in your life about, well, why is it going wrong or why did it go wrong? Pay attention to where things cause you pain, because your emotions, like I was saying earlier, are like your guideposts. And I think, you're a lot like Pile 2. I think by focusing on what has made you upset or what made you angry about these things that you're ruminating on, obsessively thinking about, that's kind of your intuition telling you, hey, there's something here to pay attention to, especially with the Three of Swords next to the High Priestess. Because literally those two cards together are saying, listen to your intuition where there's pain. So, yeah, that's interesting. Listen to your intuition where there's pain. Let's see, and then we talked about there's someone coming, I think, that might help you in this area, so keep an eye out for that, Pile 3s. Listen to their advice and their wisdom. And then looking at your cards, there's a lot of swords, yeah, which is mental energy, air. Interesting. I think, especially with the King of Wands, it's asking for more confidence in yourself. I think you self-blame a little bit too much because of this ruminating. And then, yeah, combat with the Five of Swords. Especially with the Chariot reversed right next to it. I think if these things you're ruminating over are about the why of certain conflicts, Pile number 3s, Spirit is saying to have more confidence in terms of your own role in what happened. Because especially with the Chariot reverse being next to it, I think it was out of your control. And so that's why they're saying that that should inspire more confidence in you, especially going forward into the future. It's like those fights weren't your fault. It was out of your control. And recognizing that, especially by paying attention to where there's pain, will help you realize that when it comes down to brass tacks, because you focus so much on the why of, like, why these particular things occurred, you'll realize there really wasn't a reason. It's just the other person maybe was having a bad day. the other person was having problems and they were projecting things like that. I think you're like pile 2s where you self-blame too much. Let's see, and then the Knight of Swords reversed, more action in the mind, especially next to the Queen of Swords reversed. Yeah, I see a lot of anxiety, and I see a lot of mental chaos in your reading pile number 3s. It's like, it might even be that you kind of flip-flop a lot on the way you perceive the past. I think that's why I'm having, like I talked about earlier, like blocked throat chakra. Look into opening your throat chakra, exercises, meditations for that, pile 3s. The feeling I'm having with this particular reading is I'm having trouble speaking and I'm having trouble thinking. I think intuitively, empathically, that's a sign that there's something here about blocked speech and feeling very confused. And I'm sorry if it's affecting the quality of your reading, but it's just like empathically I'm getting something and it's like I have a hard time speaking. I have a hard time. Yeah, it's very strange. Let's see if there's anything else here. Yeah. So to summarize pile 3s. Oh, then we also have make a decision. I'm sorry. I want to reflect on that card too. So make a decision is interesting because we have a figure here who's caught between two different worlds. On the left, it looks like Egypt. On the right, it looks more like rainforest, maybe Amazonian jungle, right? Being stuck between two different worlds. Being stuck, and intuitively I'm being told this is like being stuck between the past and the future is almost how it feels to me. And so I think they're saying as a piece of advice is to make a decision to let go of the past. Make a decision to focus on the present and the future because, like I said before, the past just doesn't matter, pile 3s. Yes, it's important to who we are and where we've come, or where we've come from, I should say, but it doesn't define the now. Like I was saying before, the past is now. Because that's the thing that we can control is our present. That's the only control we have. You can't control the past. You can't always receive the answers as to why things happen. But I think even if you were to receive the answers, pile number 3s, you would find that things were not so much your fault or they were completely out of your control. You know, be it people broke your heart, be it people argued with you, they were projecting, they were being combative, they were just having a bad day. Yes, and then keep in mind, there's something coming from spirit that's going to help you. There's aid coming your way, I think, in the form of a person that will help you grow past these things and help bring you to this new perspective of letting go of the why of the past and focusing more on the now, letting go of that mental anguish and torture, and being a more confident person there with the King of Wands. So pile number 3s, as always, I hope that reading was helpful for you. I apologize if I was a little bit more quiet or I kind of wavered a bit. I was getting a lot of, like I said, blocked throat chakra energy, a lot of like, it's weird. It's like this mental fog just kind of came in, and that never happens with my readings. Especially for those of you, if you're familiar with my channel, you understand that. I think that was me empathically connecting a little bit into your energy, that mental chaos, a little bit of feeling like blocked throat, like feeling I can't say anything. And so, like I said, look into unblocking throat chakra type things, okay? Meditations, for example. So, yes, I hope that reading was helpful for you. As always, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next reading, pile 3s. Bye.